bastards.
In a game like Call of Duty that's always being updated, it boggles my mind as to why some changes are kept under wraps. Each developer releases patch notes when changes are made, but more often than not, some changes remain left off these notes. This then leads to lots of speculation as to things that may or may not have been changed. Case in point, nearly every patch that gets released, someone out there swears on their life that their favorite weapon was nerfed. In actuality, nothing was ever changed. But occasionally, things actually do get stealth buffed or nerfed, and no one is any wiser unless they do a bit of testing. So in the last update for Infinite Warfare, a few of these stealth changes were made that weren't reported anywhere. 2 of them, in fact, are hardcore specific changes. The most obvious one that wasn't reported in the patch notes was the change to the UAV score streak. I'm sure many of you already noticed this on your own, as the score streak screen looks a bit different than what you're usually used to seeing. As it turns out, the UAV was nerfed. It used to cost 400 points to earn, and now it costs 500. As you can see in the score streak menu, the Scarab is now listed first. I'm not sure how I feel about this change. On the one hand, this could potentially make the Ghost perk less of a crutch. Less people will be earning UAVs, which means the Ghost perk won't be as essential. On the other hand, a lot of lesser skilled players rely on the UAV for situational awareness. Some people can only earn the UAV as a score streak. Making it harder to earn will further decrease the skill of said newbie boobies. I guess a lot of people were complaining of the UAV spam, which is probably why they raised the cost of it. The next 2 stealthy changes were specifically for the hardcore game mode. Apparently, the developers deemed Merc's reactive armor payload a bit too powerful in hardcore. As such, they drastically reduced its effectiveness. In a mode where 1 bullet can kill you, it was nice to be able to add a bit of protection with this payload. I actually saw this change because a developer posted on Reddit. Here's what he said. Reactive armor's armor was reduced to be more appropriate to the hardcore game mode. He also mentioned this. There's a number of other fixes coming for hardcore. We will identify those changes in the patch notes when they're pushed to live. I don't have any clips to show how reactive armor used to function in the hardcore game mode. It's also difficult to test hardcore since it's not an actual option in private matches. Now with that said, I did test how it now functions after this nerf. It's not as bad as some hardcore players make it out to be, but it's definitely a noticeable difference. In order to try and test how it now functions, I would find an enemy, quickly activate it, and then let him shoot me. I'm not used to taking damage in hardcore, but it appeared as if I would absorb 3 bullets and then die on the 4th. So if I had to guess, I'd say it used to absorb 5 bullets and now only absorbs 3. In core mode, I know for certain that it will absorb 7 bullets, so it's also possible that it used to absorb 7 in hardcore as well. Regardless, it's definitely 3 now in hardcore. Despite this nerf, I still had no trouble successfully taking on 2 to 3 enemies at once and surviving more often than not. The next hardcore exclusive change involves Synaptic's Reaper payload. Apparently, Reaper's health has been reduced to match the base health for the hardcore game mode. This is a pretty significant nerf as well. Considering Reaper's Claw is already a one-hit kill in core mode, using it in hardcore now gives you no benefit whatsoever over using it in core. At least before the change, you had a bit more health. Now it's on an even hardcore playing field. The last stealth change also deals with reactive armor. Again, this one comes from the same developer. He says the following. Shotgun damage was getting through because shotguns don't do just one instance of damage. The first shell or 2 would break the armor, and the shells that landed after it broke would kill the player. The quote shotgun fix changes that behavior. Now, on the frame that reactive armor is broken, all damage dealt to the player is blocked. So even if the first shell or 2 breaks the armor, any damage dealt by the subsequent shells on that frame is ignored, and the player lives. So that may have been a bit confusing to comprehend. Basically, shotgun users could one-shot kill reactive armor users before the change. There was no armor to it. It was just like getting shot normally and dying instantly. Now, however, it'll act as originally intended. So this is actually a buff to reactive armor and a nerf to shotguns. But considering the fact that this was likely a glitch to begin with, I wouldn't get up in arms about the change. So these 4 changes weren't reported in any patch notes that I've seen, and thus not many people are aware of them. This specific developer mentioned that several other hardcore specific changes were coming soon, but at least those are supposed to be reported in the future notes. If anyone's noticed any other stealth changes that may have taken place, and you've got legitimate data to back it up or a source that's showing it's true, feel free to post in the comments. Also, be sure to let me know if you knew about any of these 4 changes I mentioned. I'll be sure to be on high alert in future updates for any other stealth changes they decide to roll out.